What is up, everybody? Welcome back into the Tuesday Night AMA, the favorite night of the week for everyone, including Adam and I. And as you can see, we are joined by a very special guest, Mr. Felix Sharpe of Campus to Canton. We had Matt Bruning on, so we need his antithesis. Man, that's a tough word to say. Antithesis. His arch enemy, the guy who keeps him in check with his outrageous takes that he has.
Wild
takes. Outrageous love for Quinn Ewers and everything Ohio State. It is Felix Sharpe. How are you doing, Felix? And thank you for joining us, buddy. It's so good to finally get to chop it up with you on an episode.
Mike and Adam, I appreciate you having me. Me and Matt try to keep it spicy. We try to do our own. We were called Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon recently by a friend of ours. So we try to chop it up over there on the Campus to Canton podcast feed for Debbie Debate.
Dude,
no disrespect
I love that.
to Wilbon. No disrespect to Wilbon, but that just has to be because of the hair. Because you strike me more as a Shannon Sharpe, more of a strapping.
Yeah.
You were definitely the best dressed, best looking dude at the Fantasy Expo.
Killing
which is
it.
Why my
Expo.
fat ass is out there running fade routes.
Was killing it at the Expo.
Try to connect on a couple of throws. It had been a while, since I need to warm up next time. I just try to get out there and act like a kid again. But we got August, so I'm going to try to get in better shape for August, get my arm in shape.
Yeah, man, we're it's funny. It's January. We're already looking forward to getting all of us back together in August. It was good chopping it up with Felix and the Campus to Canton guys. Great group over there. If you're on our page watching this, and you're not subscribed to them, aren't following what they're doing, you're doing yourself a disservice, honestly. I mean, they do a bunch of podcasts. Like you said, I'm not going to go as far as Wilbon, but they have great back and forth. Like the banter they have is honestly phenomenal. Like sometimes I tune in just for the entertainment, but it's also really actionable. And if you're into getting ahead on the 23, the 24, the 25 guys, getting into the Devy and C2C stuff, these are your guys. Felix Sharpe what he wears, Sharpe when it comes to Devy and Dynasty, C2C. We're glad to have him on. Felix, man, anything you wanted to plug on the Campus to Canton side or what you're up to lately before we get started?
No, I mean, you can just hit Campus to Canton wherever you get your fantasy football entertainment, whether that be YouTube or podcasts. We're on TikTok. And in March, if you are considering a Campus to Canton league, we're going to have something for you. We're going to be having some content geared specifically towards beginners. We're seeing a lot of growth in this space, and I mean, I see why. I mean, if you're watching this, you're playing Dynasty fantasy football, and you just want a little bit more. Well, C2Cs give you that. I mean, you actually got Right now, I'm writing up profiles for the freshman class. Malik Benson. I was watching Malik Benson, the JUCO wide receiver headed to Alabama, and to see what his strengths and weaknesses are. I just love the format, and I'm glad that I got to connect with a group of guys who also love the format, but are also, savvy as far as providing content and are passionate about it. So wherever you get your fantasy football content, definitely give us a subscribe. The podcast on Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube.
Yeah, definitely go do that. Felix, we just hit 1K not very long ago, it feels like it. And look at this. I mean, Mike, we already have a super chat. We just started. I mean, Felix is out here killing the game. We got to get the super chat. Let's get the applause going for our boy Joey Cheesesticks. $4.99. Congrats on 1K. We got a 12-team Superflex start 10 lineup. He's a top 3 team. Quarterbacks are Lamar and Russ. Is the 102 in an extremely late 24 first? Like, I don't even know what extremely late. Like, I don't even know if that exists, truthfully. But let's say it's extremely late. Is that too much for Fields?
No,
I don't think so.
No,
either.
not in a Superflex. Absolutely not. I mean, in this class, this is the thing, though. This is the thing. If we know Justin Fields' situation already, and we know his development track. Bijan Robinson's probably going to go number 1, I think, even in Superflex leagues. And then you have your choice between C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. I think I'm going to take the answer I know already in Justin Fields. Now, I know I like to make – I made fun of Justin Fields a lot in the 3 years on day.
Oh, no.
But, I mean, that guy balled out, and they haven't even surrounded him yet with talent. And we knew coming into the offseason that team did least to help develop their quarterback. They drafted who was my man's name from the 26-year-old rookie from Tennessee that they drafted last year? They didn't add any free agents, but look,
Velus Jones.
Velus Jones.
There you go,
Velus
man.
Jones. But look what the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson's development, specifically like tailoring that offense towards him. Look what the Bills did with Josh Allen. I like to think that the Bears are headed on that trajectory. Once they get some cap room, they got some draft picks, that they are going to start surrounding Justin Fields with some talent. And so, but to answer the question, I don't think that is too much to trade for Justin Fields.
Not at all for me, Mike. I'll let you go because I know this is his guy. He loves Justin Fields. So let's let Mike kick it off.
I'm not even an Ohio State fan, but I just love Justin Fields. I thought he got disrespected last year. That's why we made the video on him, right? Fields of gold. We made we did a special video just for Justin Fields. He was phenomenal, and he did it with absolutely nobody, right? I thought Darnell Mooney was going to be a thing this year, just out of happenstance, and he really wasn't that great even when he was healthy. He was just kind of okay.
And then he got hurt.
Cole Kmet never really took that giant step forward that we were expecting either, so it was the Justin Fields show and the Justin Fields show. It was all Justin Fields all the time. 102, no disrespect to Felix, but when I read that, I looked at 102 and I was like, Will Levis in the late 24.
Stop it.
I did that mock draft that we're in right now. I take Will Levis everywhere. I'm the biggest Will Levis fan you're probably going to find.
Not only is he
Will Levis at 102?
Felix, not only is he off his rocker with Will Levis. I mean, listen, I like Will Levis fine, but not only is he off his rocker, he's skewing all the data. He's coming into mock drafts and taking him at 102 so people get all excited. It's the Mike craziness. But
that guy, man.
It's not Will Levis unless something crazy happens. Point is, though, to me,
I don't care who it is. A 102 and a 24 first for Justin Fields, a top 12 option, probably a top 8 option at Superflex in this landscape. That's an easy smash for you. You go ahead and hit that accept button, Joey. You'll be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, this is.
I want to say one more thing about Fields, though. I mean, yes, we're talking about on the field, but off the field, 50 years from now, 60 years from now, when we read the history books about the pandemic, Justin Fields could actually find himself in those history books because the 2020 season arguably college football season would not have happened without Justin Fields and the Let Us Play campaign, which he was the face of. This is somebody that we've been watching since he was in high school at Georgia on QB1. We kind of have a sense for the type of person he is. And then when he transfers from Georgia to Ohio, the team gravitated around him. And if you follow any of those guys on social media, you can actually tell. So, yes, I make a lot of jokes about busting, but that dude is a leader, and he's been a leader for a very long time. And I just think that he is going to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the situation that he was in this year, Mike already alluded to. You're already talking about it, Felix. Like, it's as bad as it could have been. Now, the one concern, if you're going to have one, is that he's taking too many shots and he runs so much, and can he handle that workload? But until that becomes proven that he can't, I want all that rushing. This is one of the few guys that can take any given run, Felix, in my opinion, pedestrian run, 10, 15-yard run, and it can all of a sudden become a house call. That is huge in Superflex, and we're talking about a landscape of quarterbacks that right now feels like it's as shallow as it's ever been. I mean, once you get past, Fields, Lawrence, Lamar, like it starts getting scary all of a sudden because you got Tua's concussions. Trey Lance, we have no idea what's going to happen. It's a question we need to get to after this one. It's the top question. What do we think about Lance now? But given how bad the quarterback landscape is, I'm perfectly fine for going a late, especially if you're telling me extremely late, 24 first, so that I can lock in a quarterback that I know about today. I think there's probably a scenario where if you're risky, the other side pans out, but what I know, what I want, it's Fields, no question. So, Joey Cheesesteaks, if you have that deal on the table, go make it, man. And thanks for the congrats on the 1K, by the way. So, getting to that other question where we started, Wyatt says, how are we feeling about Trey Lance now? Felix, let me ask you. We got a Brock Purdy UCL injury. If it requires surgery, you're talking like 9 months at minimum. Trey Lance starts the season for San Francisco. I'd imagine he's going to be on a short leash, kind of, but like, where are you at with Trey Lance and given all the things happening in San Francisco right now?
Well, this is a player who had all the tools, the physique, the arm strength, the rushing ability, just as much rushing ability as Justin Fields. He was a one-year starter at the FCS level before he was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers. We saw him play, 2-3 games before we started to just decided to write him off. And in that early 2 or 3 game stretch, we were ready to write off Justin Fields too. Remember that first game of the season with all the mud and everything?
Yes.
San Francisco and Chicago. They both played poorly in that game, but I mean, look at the conditions. Shame on Chicago, by the way. I think that game was in Chicago. Shame on Chicago for the field conditions in that game, especially to open the season.
Yeah.
And I'm not ready to write this dude off at all, especially given how much success Kyle Shanahan has had with quarterbacks. The draft is in April. I think OTAs start in March. He's going to have the entire season cycle to go through OTAs. He's going to have his second year, another year in the playbook. If people are down on Trey Lance, I think that this is a buying opportunity because he has everything. He has everything that you need to be an elite fantasy asset. Absolutely elite fantasy asset. There's a lot of talent on that team that can help erase a quarterback's mistakes between Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. Now they've got Christian McCaffrey. Like, you don't even got to throw the ball downfield. This is absolutely a buying opportunity because Trey Lance is going to go into the offseason as the starter. So now the job kind of has to be taken away from him unless they get Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. Unless one of those things happens. I don't think that it's going to be Aaron Rodgers because he has to be traded. Maybe it's Tom Brady. But I think that Trey Lance is a buy regardless of whether or not they make one of those big splashy free agent trades or player trades.
No, I'm with you. I think that's well said, and I think that's where I'm at too. I don't wish injury on any person, and it does suck to see Brock Purdy, who had all that success, have this injury that ends up being a serious one, and is going to keep him out for sure of everything this summer. So what's interesting, Felix, everything you said is so crazy to me because the one game we talked about Justin Fields just a second ago, they played that one game, which was, if you didn't watch it or don't know what we're talking about, go take a look. Justin Fields at the end of the game slides, literally like it's a water slide for 10 yards. And the conditions of that game were so horrible. They were basically running the football. They ended up being down, and they were forced to throw. So if you look at his stat line, 13 of 28, a lot of those incompletions were coming when they're trying like crazy to come back in terrible conditions. That's the one game that we have to go off of his being like a full-time starter. Like, that's it. Then the very next game, he was 2 for 3, and the unfortunate, leg ankle injury happens. Think about everything you know about San Francisco, all the weapons, how successful Jimmy G has been, how Brock Purdy hasn't lost a game until he got hurt. I mean, why can't Trey Lance be as successful as them, but also be better? And that's what they drafted him to be. I think the one thing, I don't wish it for Brock Purdy, but the fact that he does have this serious injury, it opens the door now for Trey Lance to take the job back and regain control of this locker room and this entire team and be the starting quarterback. Because if they would have beaten Philly or had a really good game and it came down to the wire and he's healthy all offseason, like, I don't know if Trey Lance actually gets that shot. So for him, he has the opportunity to get that and take it and run with it. Mike, what do you think? Any final thoughts?
I think even before the Brock Purdy injury, you had multiple scenarios that still favored Trey Lance, and you had like one that was bad. And then the bad one was we get to next year, Brock Purdy's taking him to the Super Bowl, or he looked good in that Philly game, and he's looked good, the whole time that he's played. And it's a competition, and Brock Purdy just wins out, right? And you held on to Trey Lance for that entire time. The 49ers had held on to Trey Lance for that entire time, and just flat gets beat out. That was your one out where you went, oh, this isn't good for Trey Lance, but everything else was good, right? Maybe Brock Purdy struggles, like he was probably on pace to struggle in that game against Philadelphia. But luckily for Brock Purdy stands, he kind of got injured, man. He got injured, so, unlucky for him, but lucky for those people who think Brock Purdy was really good and wasn't going to play bad, because now it's just the unknown. Well, he had done all this, and then a fluke injury took him out, so it's still going to be his job next year. That's probably not the case, man. Trey Lance is going to go into, like you guys mentioned, the only healthy quarterback going in. He's going to have all the offseason reps. He's going to have all the ability. But on the other side, what I mean about multiple outs was there was a scenario where San Francisco would have traded him in the offseason. If they really thought Brock Purdy was the guy, he was going to get traded somewhere. Somebody would have paid something for Trey Lance, and something substantial. I don't know if it would have been a first-round pick, but I could imagine a second-round pick and maybe something else coming back just to see if Trey Lance could be the starting quarterback for maybe the Carolina Panthers or the Atlanta Falcons or one of these teams that wanted to fill their quarterback, because we're only getting 4 of them this year. That's it. And it's still yet to be seen if we actually get 4 quarterbacks in this rookie class. So there's only a handful. There's a billion teams that need quarterbacks. Trey Lance was going to be in demand, and you had an out as a Trey Lance manager to still see him as a starting quarterback somewhere next year. Now, I think it's more likely it stays in San Francisco. I think it's more likely that him being the only healthy one, now he's got the leg up on Brock Purdy if there is any kind of training camp battle. And I just think he's flat out more talented than Brock Purdy ever was. So I never really panicked on Trey Lance. I know, Adam, you and I had some criticism of where he was being taken in some of those early startup drafts in this offseason, where he's going in the 3rd round in a 12-team league. And it's like, man, I don't know. That we still haven't seen it yet. So to spend that kind of draft capital in a startup was a little bit scary. But this quarterback landscape is disgusting. You touched on it earlier. It's like, after like Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray, who we have concerns about, it's like Trey Lance and it's Kirk Cousins and it's Derek Carr, and then it's, where do these rookies slot in? It's horrible out there.
Yeah.
Why not take a shot on a guy like Trey Lance, though? He has all the tools, like Felix was mentioning, to be the Justin Fields of this year. And instead of Justin Fields being with the Bears with no weapons, now it's Justin Fields if he was on the 49ers throwing to, Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, and handing the ball off to CMC with Kyle Shanahan calling plays. So still very much in on Trey Lance. I don't know if the Brock Purdy injury changed very much for me, just more solidified me liking Trey Lance and wanting to buy Trey Lance if there's going to be a discount.
Absolutely. Tunchi, we appreciate it, man. Another super chat. We already got 2 super chats. We're pretty new into the monetization and this AMA, so we already got 2 super chats. Appreciate you, Tunchi. He has a question. The 23-101 or the 23-104 and the 106? I have my thoughts. Mike, I want to let you kick it off, and then we'll pass it over to Felix, because I want to get Felix's take on this one too, man.
So I don't know if this is a Superflex or a 1-quarterback league, so this would change.
Tunchi, if you could drop into the comments to help us answer, Superflex or 1QB, that would be big.
I'll answer it on both, though. If this is a Superflex league, I'm comfortable with the 104 and 106 for the 101.
Superflex, you'll do it?
Yeah, Superflex, I'll do it. I get one of the top wide receivers at the 106, my first choice, maybe Jahmyr Gibbs if he falls that far, depending on how wide receivers and quarterbacks go. And at the 104, I like this quarterback class a lot. I don't think it's super elite, but
Tunchi says Superflex, by the way. So
I talked up how much I love Will Levis. How much I love Will Levis in this class. I think Anthony Richardson is phenomenal as well. As long as he gets the draft capital, I'm all in on him too. And we know what Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are. Just good players. So 101, Bijan is fantastic, but give me the quarterback in Superflex and give me the second option of Gibbs, one of the top wide receivers. Or in some of these leagues, depending on how people value quarterbacks or how much they value these wide receivers in other positions, you might walk out with 2 quarterbacks with the 104 and 106.
Felix, what say you, buddy?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to think of who would be there at 104. I'm sorry, Mike. I think that the top 3 are going to be Bijan, Young, and Stroud in Superflex. It's not going to be Will Levis there in the top 3. So then at the 104, I think the third quarterback taken is going to be Anthony Richardson. So you've got Anthony Richardson, Quentin Johnston, Jahmyr Gibbs, all available, and obviously we don't know their landing spots right now. I think I'm leaning towards the 104 and the 106 because there's the potential if somebody does take Will Levis at the 102, then you got Young or Stroud actually dropping to you. Whew. Then you can pick, Quentin Johnston at the 106. I think I'd rather have that. So it's a little bit of a risk, but I think I'd rather have the 104 and 106.
I'm with Felix here too. I think the only pushback I would give on possibly not taking it today is just this has been my thing with 101 all along, right? With 101, if someone's paying 104 and 106 today in January, they probably really crave some Bijan. And they might be willing to make that offer more in March when Bijan Hype's higher. More when Bijan Hype's really high and he's a top 10, top 15 pick. So the only pushback I'd give is if you don't take this deal, it's not that I don't like it, it's that I think you might be able to get more down the road. But if this was best case scenario, I'd send Bijan away. Because I think the thing is, if these two picks are a little later, like if this is 107, 109, I want 101 pretty easy. But because it's 104, I can guarantee one of the quarterbacks I like in Superflex. And then I can also get, a Gibbs, a Quentin Johnston, like, Felix is talking about. There's so many options still at 106 and so many different ways where the draft capital can make guys even push up the board more, which could make things fall to 104 and 106. I'm perfectly fine taking the 2-for-1 here because you're getting 2 top 6 picks. But if you don't want to take it today and you want to try to ask for something more, I don't even think that's crazy. Like, people are going to pay out the nose for Bijan when it's all said and done.
I'm with you, buddy.
All right, Tunchi, we appreciate it. All right, let's get to, he's been here for a while. I'm going to skip a couple people because Matt Bruning has a question for Felix Sharpe here. Who's the best 24 quarterback asset, and why is it Quinn Ewers? We'll let Felix start off with this one. He loves him some Quinn Ewers and Matt Bruning.
Yeah, I mean, Quinn Ewers is all cattle, no hat, or excuse me, all hat, no cattle. Is that what they say down there in Texas?
Oh, shit.
At this point, I mean,
shit.
You're talking about a sub 60%, of 57% completion percentage passer, someone who kind of evolved into an inefficient and inaccurate game manager later in the season, especially in the bowl game. Sure, he has all the talent, but no, the best quarterback – it's going to be between Caleb Williams and Drake May, and I'm not going to write Drake May off as being the best quarterback in 2024. And I'll tell you why, because Drake May is the best combination of player that plays within and out of structure, whereas Caleb Williams always prefers to play the game out of structure even when he doesn't have to. Drake May can run the ball. I love Drake May's efficiency in the red zone. It reminds me of Aaron Rodgers, where he uses pump fakes to move defenders, just a couple of inches so he can create some space. UNC has also added to their wide receiver core this year. They knew that they needed to add with Josh Downs leaving. They added Devontae Walker and Nate McCullum. I think that those are great additions, and they complement probably Andre Green Jr., who's going to be the other outside wide receiver. If you don't know who Devontae Walker is, go watch Kent State's game against Georgia. You see why Kent State almost beat Georgia. Devontae Walker had like 115 yards and a touchdown in that game.
About 10 minutes down the road, Kent State, baby.
There's a long screen pass in that game where he takes it to the house, and you see Georgia's defenders can't catch up to him. So it's going to be between Caleb Williams and Drake May. Drake May, has the slight edge now, and he's the name, and he's got, Lincoln Riley behind him. But I'm not writing off Drake May for being the number one quarterback in next year's class. Quinn Ewers is not even close to these two.
But you are writing off Quinn Ewers as being the QB1.
At this point, Quinn Ewers is going to be a 4-year player. He's not coming out in next year's draft.
Ooh.
Damn.
Matt, I know Matt would love to be on here to answer back, but he's not. So we're going to move on because apparently that's not the case. We also have, some serious – our boy B. I'm just here for Felix. So, you got fans all over the place, Felix. We're happy to be a part of this show today, honestly.
Just along for the ride, man.
Yeah, We got Ty. What up, family? Trade 107 for Brees or just take what falls – 107, 101, 111.
I'm telling you. I'm sorry, you didn't throw it to me. I'm taking Brees all day.
No, I'm with you. And by the way, take the reins if you ever see one you want to take. Go ahead, man. This is you're on the show. You're the guest.
Was that the question? Trade 107 or Brees, or just take what falls out 101, 107, 101. Nah, I'm taking Brees. You can have Bijan and Brees. Are you serious? No, give me Brees. Give me Brees all day.
So IDP throws it a little bit here, but at 107, it's easily Brees for me. Mike, I don't know if you differ here, but
I think it's the you said IDP differs a little bit, but you're thinking of our IDP league, which is not like any other IDP league ever. I mean, not a lot of IDP leagues give 6 points for a sack, right?
Right. Well, I'm thinking about Will Anderson going in the top 6 picks in our crazy scoring one. Yeah, if it's a regular scoring, he probably isn't.
Most regular IDP scoring leagues, he's not going to the top 6 picks. So if you just think about this as a 107 for Brees, as much as I'll sit here and bullshit you about how much I love Will Levis, and you could probably get Will Levis with the 107, Nah, man. Like, I'll take Breece Hall. I do have some concerns about what he looks like early in the season with that ACL. I mean, all running backs seem to struggle outside of Adrian Peterson, who was a damn cyborg from the get-go. But Breece Hall is pretty damn good, man. And if Breece Hall was in this class as a running back, let me ask you, Felix, if Breece Hall was coming out this year with this ACL injury, with what you know about him, where would he slide in at running back for you?
It's a good question. I like this question.
RB2, RB3?
It's hard for me not to say RB2. Let's assume that he is healthy. It's hard for me not to say RB2 because we know how he fits in that Jets offense. Remember, that Jets offense, at least last year, I know they fired their offensive coordinator, was the 49ers wide zone and everything like that. And we know how successful, going back to Mike Shanahan, not even Kyle Shanahan, back to Orlandis Gary and Clinton Portis, how successful that offense has been with running backs. So I think he would be RB2 because both Bijan and Breece have that 220-pound frame. And I'm afraid that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to weigh in at 185. I mean, we saw Muhammad Ibrahim weigh in at 203. I'm like, if Muhammad Ibrahim looks like he's 20 pounds heavier.
You ain't lying, man. I've watched Mo Ibrahim for forever being a Hawkeye fan, it feels like. And I thought that dude was at least 215, 220. And then when I saw that weigh in, I'm going, what? Right. And he's built, he's like 5'7", 5'8". He's low to the ground. Man,
what we're hoping for, though, with Jahmyr Gibbs is that even if that's the case, that he gets on the Travis Etienne program and he just loads up for the weigh-in, so that it doesn't matter. All the weight concerns are put to bed. Go ahead, Felix. I'm kicking right back to you.
I'm just hoping for 200 from Jahmyr Gibbs. But the other thing I want to say about this trade, so let's say hypothetically that you do it. So you have Bijan and Breece Hall.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's time to start trading because you need to make your run now. Like, this team is ready. You got these running backs. You're going to have a 3-year window that you should not – in my opinion, you shouldn't have that 111 once it gets to draft time. You should be trading that for, Stephon Diggs, some sort of veteran wide receiver that you can go on this run with, because you got these two running backs. You have a window. It's time to win some money and get some championships. So ride those two horses, but you got to surround them with some talent. So I would be trading that 111 trying to get a veteran wide receiver.
I'm with you. I think two things. One, if you have both those running backs, you're in a position where, like, we saw running back be devalued, but the one running back that has completely broken the mold, playing, I think, 7 weeks and getting hurt in week 7, is Breece Hall. Breece Hall has not, with the ACL injury, has not depreciated like anyone else in Dynasty. When you look at Keep Trade Cut today, and I know, Keep Trade Cut's a big joke, and their trade algorithms is terrible, but when you just look at crowdsourced data, who values Breece Hall, he's a top 12, top 13 Dynasty asset in Superflex still, coming off the ACL. So even if you take this pick, like right now, the way I look at this is, as much as I think the 23 rookies are going to continue to surge in value, 107 is very unlikely to ever pass Breece Hall this summer. Now, when Breece Hall is playing, and let's say that's a quarterback or something, maybe that's different, but you're winning the value all offseason, one. So that's why you take it first and foremost. You can build around it, but then also you now have a better asset that you could flip again if you wanted to. Now all of a sudden with those running backs, with the picks you have, like, you might be able to parlay this into a top 8, top 5, Dynasty quarterback. You got to take the value in here, Ty, in my opinion. I think you got to take the win of Breece, and there's so many different ways you could play this because, like Felix said, you make this trade now, you're in the position to go win money. So, and that's what we're all playing for. Oh man, I missed this one earlier. Matt Bruning, man, you guys are just letting anyone on here. Sorry, yeah, Felix and Mike decided to let me on today, so I appreciate them having me on. All right, so we got Patty Mills. What 23 picks are we comfortable sending for Olave? That's a good question. I mean, are we talking multiple, or is this like a one pick? Where does Olave slot in? Patty Mills, I guess, is the question I'll ask. We can answer it on both lenses, but that's my thoughts initially.
Man, if I had to put a number on it, I'm going to say like 104. 104 feels right. Just a single pick.
You would take Olave over that, or you would take 104 over Olave?
I would take Olave over the 104.
Really?
Yep.
What do you say, Felix? I think it'd be 105. I think I want Bijan and the quarterback, the option at getting quarterbacks ahead of Chris Olave. Then I'll take him at 105-ish.
I still think Chris Olave is probably best suited as a 1B, 1A to an alpha number one. And I'm looking at, I'm still taking Bijan over him. I'm taking Bryce Young over him. I'm taking C.J. Stroud over him. I am probably, depending on landing spot and weigh in, I'm probably taking Gibbs over him, and I'm probably taking Quentin Johnston over him. I think Quentin Johnston, profiles like the X and Alpha X wide receiver, and those are so rare. So that's 1, 2, that's 5. So I'm in, Adam, you said 5. I think I'm in the 6 range.
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, I don't. It's hard for me, Felix, because as an Ohio State guy, right? I saw this guy not be the alpha, it felt like, after all the hype, and then it's his senior year, and he still wasn't all that great. But then he had this phenomenal year. He was force-fed a lot of targets. I'm in on Olave to an extent, but I'm also, what does the quarterback situation look like for New Orleans? Mike has 104, Felix has 106. I think somewhere in that range is actually probably correct. If you can trade, one of these back-end first for Chris Olave, I think we're all easily in, right? Like if you could trade, if we could trade 108 for Chris Olave, are we all doing that today?
Easily, no question about it.
So I think that's the reality. 104 to 106. If you want to hold the pick, I think that's probably appropriate, just because the value is going to continue to rise for those picks. You get more to the back half, 108 and later. Go ahead and send it.
I mean, we got friend of the show, Cody Smith, out there in Heisman chat. Destination Devi gassing me up on Chris Olave all day today. So just posting.
No wonder Mike's
posting
at 104.
His elite yards per route run. If you extrapolate and gave him the same number of targets as Garrett Wilson, here's his final numbers. It's crazy. Chris Olave is really good, and that's why he's the wide receiver 1 of the 22 class.
But we know Felix knows that Garrett Wilson is over Chris Olave. And you know what? We're gonna break the tie once and for all, man. We've had a debate, Felix, for a while, and it feels like Mike won't.
You got Will Levis, and you got Chris Olave over Garrett Wilson.
Somebody, you see,
is this a bit? This is a bit, isn't it?
No. Felix. You know what? This is funny, man, because this is, that shit you got with Matt. This is like, who am I talking to, Felix? We were on, what was that, Sunday of the draft, day 3 with the draft with Jay Rich, and he got Mike all excited for Chris Olave, and it paid off. But now he's taking it to he's in banana land, as Ray would call it. I mean, but I don't know. I got Garrett Wilson ahead of him.
And it was Garrett Wilson. I think I would trade probably the 103.
Let's go.
I think I'd rather have Garrett Wilson than Gibbs.
Let's go. All right, Garrett Wilson is the wide receiver 1 for you in the class of 22. Before we get to, because we're going to get back to Quentin Johnston here. Who do you have as the other wide receivers? How do they rank in the class of 22? So would Olave be second? Would it be Drake London?
No, I would still have Treylon Burks at number 2.
Okay, I like that. What about Drake London?
I was never a big fan of Drake London.
Okay.
So I mean, you actually got to remind me of who the 22 wide receivers are.
So we got Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, George Pickens, Chris Olave. Who else did I not say?
Jahan
Dotson.
Christian Watson.
I might even go Pickens before Drake London. The contested catch wide receiver, and I know that there's a big, debate in the community is how is Drake London this guy that gets open? But quite frankly, I think I'd rather prefer the organization, the Steelers organization, also that comes with George Pickens, and he just seems kind of determined to be a dog out there. They let go of
Claypool,
the Claypool, who they traded to the Bears.
Yep.
I think that we're going to see a lot of growth in year 2. And he's got just as much athleticism and upside as Drake London. Is that, in question?
I don't think so. I don't think that's in question. I think he has George Pickens has almost as much upside as anybody as far as an athlete and stuff. There's some concern for some people of the targets that he's going to earn and his separation, but the same thing is true for Drake London in separation. All right, so then, and you would say then Garrett Wilson 1, Treylon Burks 2. Would you have Chris Olave at 3 then, or would you have George Pickens?
I think I would have George Pickens at 3, Chris Olave at 4.
Okay.
I just still think that Chris Olave is a 1B or a number 2 wide receiver to an alpha if all things are being equal. That's just how I see. That's what I see. That's what he was at Ohio State.
Well,
that's what he was at Ohio State, which is a good player. But I don't think that he has the upside of the 3 players in front of him. I mean, does anybody? I don't know if debates that. You see him being, an Antonio Brown or Keenan Allen or one of these smaller wide receivers, like elite 1A level, top 12, top 10 wide receivers for 4 seasons on end. I don't know that I necessarily see that in Chris Olave's game. I could be wrong. I just think that Pickens, Burks, and obviously Wilson have higher upside than he does.
Well, this is why we wanted to bring a Sharpe guy on the show because Felix Sharpe is basically telling you how far the difference is between Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. And this is also not a bit. This wasn't set up. This is live and in person. So thank you for affirming what everybody should know and what Mike's fighting to the death. Dr. B. Harris, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What's more important for QJ to rise in rookie ADP, landing spot or combine numbers? Felix, you've been talking a lot about Quentin Johnston. What do you think?
I don't think that there's a question about how Quentin Johnston is going to perform at the combine. He's going to run some 4 or 5, and at 6'4", 210 pounds or whatever he is, it's going to be a great speed score. It's landing spot. Does he go to a place with one of these elite quarterbacks? Could he find himself in Kansas City? Could he find himself in a place that kind of really needs a number 1? Maybe he goes to wherever Aaron Rodgers is going to be. For that guy, for wide receiver, I already assume that he's going to do great at the combine. So it's just a matter of, if he lands in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson, I don't know that that's great because Lamar Jackson doesn't like to throw the ball outside the numbers, and that's where Quentin Johnston is going to be. But when you look at his skill set and what he can do after the catch of a player that size, maybe he has to figure out the route tree, but he can run. He can play the Demaryius Thomas game while he's figuring that out. Run him on jailbreak screens, run him on bubble screens, short stuff on hitches, and let him run after the catch while he learns to run the routes 15 and 18 yards down the field. He's just a very versatile player, and I know that he was inconsistent at times. I think he only had 300-yard games on the entire season. I'm going to lay a little bit of that on quarterback play. But no, it's landing spot. Landing spot is what's going to solidify him as being like the 104, 105 or so in this rookie class.
I like that. It probably is. I think the biggest thing for people in general is going to be, can they disassociate Quentin Johnston and scouting the helmet? And I think for a lot of people that's going to be the issue with Quentin Johnston is they can't unsee TCU, Jalen Reagor, all the burn from TCU receivers. I think we have to be careful not to scout the helmet. This is a guy that, Felix, I think he's a freak that in the right situation could be completely unleashed in the NFL. Mike, what do you think?
These top 3 wide receivers, in my opinion, Quentin Johnston, JSN, Boutte, they all have something that we're waiting to see what the real problem is, or how the NFL really values them, or how the NFL maybe knocks them down their board or moves them up based on what they like. So with JSN, we're going to have questions about size and speed, and is he just a slot guy? Boutte, we kind of have some off-the-field character concerns, not so much with the sex party, but that early look on, kind of quitting on his team. I know he rebounded and had a nice finish to the year, but early that's going to stick with some people. So we'll kind of see if the NFL really values him. You've heard the rumblings. He might not even be a first-round pick. He might be a day 2 guy. You never know. So I want to see that. With Quentin Johnston, for me, Adam, you kind of brought up the whole helmet thing, right? We've been burned time and time again about TCU. All the time. Jalen Reagor killed me, right? Before that, Josh Dotson. It was horrible.
Yep.
The problem I have with Quentin Johnston, and I really got on board later with him because he had some incredible moments, but the thing that's going to stick in my mind, and it sucks that I'm going to have to get past, but I watched Marvin Harrison Jr. just put work in on Ringo in the semifinals, just absolutely abuse this man. And then we get to the national championship, and Quentin Johnston was a zero burger. Like just had buckled down in the car seat, strapped up, couldn't do nothing. Now that whole offense was god awful, so maybe that's part of the reason. But Felix, I mean, you're much more into the college game. You study it a lot more. But for me, just kind of being the casual guy, thinking about where I'm going to value these guys, I think it's still a knock for me, and that's kind of why I have a hard time deciphering who is going to be my wide receiver one, who's going to be that guy that I value the most. I think they all have a legitimate opportunity to be that guy. The shitty part for Adam and I is we do like 15 leagues that draft before the NFL draft, so we're going to have to make that decision in our rookie drafts. You're not going to get the luxury of seeing, oh yeah, JSN did slip to the back half of the first round. Quentin Johnston was a top 12 or top 15 pick, and Boutte was a day 2 guy, where it's apparent on what you should do in your rookie drafts and how you should value these wide receivers. So where would you say Quentin Johnston with that whole Ringo thing? Is that a big deal? Am I just overblowing it? I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. is fantastic. I don't think there's any question about that. One of the greatest receivers I think I've ever had the pleasure of watching in college. But to get destroyed by Marvin Harrison Jr. as far as Ringo goes, and then just to lock up Quentin Johnston in that entire offense, really just kind of left a sour taste in my mouth.
The one thing I'll say before Felix, you hop on this, is that when you're Georgia's D versus TCU, I mean, you're in the passing game anyway. I mean, you're going to take away Quentin Johnston, and that this is another reason why everyone that's excited for TCU and these underdog schools to go to the college playoff, at least while it's 4 teams, just stop it. Like, this is what happens. I mean, yeah, they played great versus Michigan, but when they play one of the best teams in the country and a team like Georgia, they're just physically outmatched. It's not even close. But Felix, go ahead. He was asking you the question.
No, I mean, so I would need to – this is what I think about Quentin Johnston, and I think I'm going to give some folks what to look for. He profiles as an X wide receiver, boundary wide receiver. When I think about that type of player, what skill set do they need to be successful? Can you release from the line of scrimmage when you're facing Jalen Ramsey and Patrick Surtain? Can you do that? Can you stack a corner? Can you catch the ball with contact with somebody draped over you? Can you catch the ball in that cover 2 hole with keep your hands on the ball when a safety hits you? Are you explosive on posts, goes, comebacks, slants? That's what that position runs. I think that he can do all of those things, and he has the added benefit of, once he catches that slant, he can make the corner miss and make the safety miss and get 5 to 10 yards or take it to the house. So, I don't know how it is that Ringo was able to shut him down, but if I'm going to go back and watch that tape, I'm going to see, all right, did he struggle with Ringo at the line of scrimmage? Was Ringo able to trail him in man when he made his cuts, when he made that slant, when he cut to the slant or he cut to the in route or made to the comeback? Was Ringo just in his pocket? Those are the types of things that I would look for that would have me concerned. But from what I've seen from him thus far, and I can even go back to, I don't know if it was 2020 or 2021, like the game he had against Oklahoma, where he kind of just dominated that game, and you saw a little bit of all the aspects of the game, including the contested catches and going up and getting the ball. So, out of all the wide receivers in this particular class, I think that he has the most versatile skill set. And again, I'm going to go back to what are the simple things the things that don't require technique or a lot of skill, is just putting the ball in his hands. Deebo Samuel's great, but there are ways that Kyle Shanahan just gets him the ball and he makes plays after the catch. I'm telling you that. No, I'm not saying that Quentin Johnston's going to line up in the backfield, but can you just throw, a screen right there to him and let him run with the ball? Yes, you can. Can you just run hitches? Yes, you can. So, very similar to Treylon Burks last year. So I don't even remember what the question was. I know the question is landing spot or ADP. I think it's going to be his landing spot. But, of all the wide receivers in this class, I just think that he has the most versatile skill set, and he profiles, as the X wide receiver, the player that an offensive coordinator may focus their passing game around, the guy that's going to catch 80, 90 balls for 1,200 yards and 8, 9 TDs. So that's why Quentin Johnston is number 1 for me in this class.
I like it. I'm excited for Quentin Johnston. Felix is getting me even more excited for Quentin Johnston. So we need to get to another question before y'all see something you don't want to see. All right, so we got Cody is out here. Purdy still starts more games in 23 for the 49ers than Trey Lance. Okay, I mean it's a take. I don't believe that's going to be the case. I think the UCL is going to cause Purdy to have a long road ahead of himself, and coming back and playing football. And Trey Lance is going to have to really. I think it's set up now for Trey Lance. We kind of already touched on this, but for Trey Lance, he's gonna have to fuck this up, I think, for Purdy to get the job back. Personally,
man, I don't know. You know where I'm at on this one, Felix. Where were you at on Brock Purdy? Were you in on this guy?
I would not take that. Where was I at on Brock Purdy? Oh,
yeah,
please. Last year I was calling for Hunter Deckers to come in for Brock Purdy. What
about when he was showing
State.
well in Frisco though? Because nobody was on Brock Purdy early.
This is a good system. Like, it's hard to answer the question. Like, what do I think that he would be good if he played for the Houston Texans? Are you asking me? I think he would be a good quarterback? I think that he's good there, but there are a lot of players who have been good in this particular system. And I don't know that it matters what I think about him because he is injured.
Right.
Not only he's going to have to come back and rehab and get back into football with someone who will be, that many steps ahead of him in game preparation and physical preparation and getting comfortable with the offense. He's going to have to start over. By the time we get to the start of the 2023 season, Trey Lance, for all intents and purposes, is going to be the incumbent starter because he will have had, 8 months or 7 months or whatever as the starter. Brock Purdy's not going to be there to start training camp.
No.
Trey Lance is.
Yep.
So I would not take the bet that Purdy starts more games than Lance in 2023 because that has to mean that Trey Lance either got injured or played, horribly and poorly, and then they went to Brock Purdy. I don't know that that's going to necessarily be the case.
I'm with you, Felix. I think we're all on the same page there. So, Cody, I think honestly, Mike and myself, if you're into side bets, would be willing to take a look at that one. So hit us up in the DMs, man.
It's horrible.
Brandon, who is your favorite freshman C2C asset? This is definitely a Felix question.
Well, let me get this notepad out.
That is a really good question. I'm going to give you two.
Okay, two.
I'm going to say this is a very good quarterback class, and I think that Jackson Arnold is a perfect fit for what Levy is going to want to do at Oklahoma. Jeff Levy previously with Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. They run a lot of RPO, get the ball out quickly. Matt Corral's best season was with Jeff Levy as offensive coordinator. And Jackson Arnold reminds me a lot of Matt Corral. Now, Matt Corral has an otherworldly, throw it out the building arm strength. But as far as just the playmaker that he was, I see a lot of that in Jackson Arnold. And that's after – people are always going to take Arch Manning, Dante Moore, and Malachi Nelson over Jackson Arnold. So you're getting I think that Jackson Arnold is an NFL quarterback, and I think that he is in the perfect system for him to have a lot of success there at Oklahoma. So that's one. A name further down the list. I think I'm going to go. Well, can I give you three? Because now I'm thinking of the players that I've written up.
Listen, you're the guest, buddy. Last thing I'm going to do is cut off Felix Sharpe. Go ahead.
Is it Tayshawn? I think it's Tayshawn Lyons currently going to Washington. I'm going to make sure I get that name right. This is a raw player that played in California, and I'm a big fan of Washington's of Kalen DeBoer. Big fan of Kalen DeBoer. Systems matter a lot in college football, and we see what Michael Penix has done there, both at Indiana and at Washington. Tayshawn Lyons has athleticism. He has speed. Raw. He's one of the highest, he's one of the best mile per hour times for this wide receiver class. over 22 miles per hour. When you look at the fastest NFL times, they're usually between 22 and 23 miles per hour. Usually it's Raheem Mostert, Jonathan Taylor that have some of the fastest runs in the NFL. So Tayshaun Lyons, raw player, has this athleticism. He also, he's a thinner kid but has contact balance for some reason. He's hard to tackle. So I like him. Jackson Arnold and Caden Fegan, who is headed to, and I tweeted something earlier today. I said, these are the athletic comps for one of my favorite players in this class. Fegan is headed to Illinois.
He's going to Illinois. Yeah, I heard about this kid. I want to hear what you got to say on him.
Yeah, he's headed to Illinois. He's played a lot of different. He's from the state of Illinois. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year for the state of Illinois. Played a lot of different positions. He was designated as an athlete. Played, defensive end, linebacker, safety. He could have been recruited as a linebacker. Played obviously running back. Played quarterback here his senior year. He's 6'2" or 6'3", 240 pounds. He has very good athleticism for that size. He has some lateral agility. I love the fit there in Illinois, because Illinois is essentially Wisconsin South. Wisconsin's had, Brian Allen and Jonathan Taylor recently. Brett Bielema, who between Arkansas and his time at Wisconsin has had Melvin Gordon, Monte Ball, Jonathan Williams, some other guys that he's just continued to feed. This Caden Fegan guy, if he can bring some physicality to his game. He's got the speed, he's got the agility for a player of that size. If he can learn to convert speed to power and thump through tackles and shrink his he's a tall kid. He can lower his pad level, shrink the tackling surface, and thump through tacklers. This is going to be a very good player. We saw what Chase Brown did in this offense. He ran for 1,600 yards. I don't know if people recognize it. He ran for 1,600 yards there at Illinois. And Illinois just had their first winning season since 2011. They've got some momentum there. Speaking of Ole Miss, Luke Altmaier, transfer from Ole Miss, is going to Illinois. I think that they've got Josh McCray and Reggie Love, who Josh McCray could declare for the NFL draft after this next season. I don't know that he will, but this kid's potential, given size and athleticism, he has a lot of potential. Now, again, he's got to bring the physicality to it. I'm not saying that you should take this player in the first round of your drafts. You ask for a value or favorite freshman asset. I'm giving you 3. This player should probably be taken around, I don't know, 5th or 6th round in your freshman drafts. But he's someone I'm paying attention to because of his size and athleticism, and also the offense that he's in, and Brett Bielema's track record for feeding a bigger back. So those are some of my favorites.
I like it. Brandon, there you go. You didn't get 1, you didn't get 2, you got 3. So here's the thing. I don't know why I don't get to be a part of this action, because, like, Mike, I would say this. If I was included in this, I was going to say we got our biggest super chat that we've ever had, because we're getting $50 thrown our way here by Cody because he wants to take $50 on the Trey Lance bet. What do you say? You in?
I'm definitely in. He's going to die on this hill. He's going to die on this hill.
All right. There you go. Right here, live on AMA, $50 bet, Mike and Cody. Who starts more games, Trey Lance or Brock Purdy for the San Francisco 49ers is the bet. So there you go. We got a whole bunch of questions, so we're going to have to try to –
we got to find a charity to donate it to. We got to find we got plenty of time. We'll figure it out.
What do you think, Mike? Should we all split – we're all on here, right? Should we split this 3 ways?
You're going to make Cody pay $150 to charity.
All right. Let's get this back on the rails, man, before we get out of character. All right. King Koopa, sup, guys? Traded 101 and Chris Olave for Jalen Hurts and 23,309 and a 12 team. Superflex, tight end, premium. It's an Empire League. How did I do? I mean, well, I want Jalen Hurts over the 101. The Chris Olave thing makes it a little more convoluted. 12 team. So here's what I don't know. I'm assuming this is lineup, and how many starters is it? Because here's the thing, Mike. When it comes to lineup, as great as Bijan is and as much as the Hall is going to be, I'm comfortable paying this for Jalen Hurts side. So if he's getting Jalen Hurts, I personally want that side. I don't know what you say, Mike and Felix. What do you think about this one?
I'm looking at it as what I said earlier, though, like the 101 and the 104, right? If that's what I'm comfortable paying for Chris Olave.
Mm-hmm. But would you pay that for Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I'd pay that for Jalen Hurts.
I'm 100%. And I'll tell you this.
Superflex League?
We can almost not even ask Felix because we know that Chris Olave for him is like almost a second-round pick in this class. So, Felix, is this one close for you, or are you taking Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I'm really looking at the 101 for Jalen Hurts. And I guess, in a Superflex league, I guess that's fine. However, you're going to be able to take Bryce Young or CJ Stroud with that 101 pick. And is Jalen Hurts that much of a value over those two? I don't know that I'm sure just yet. Right now, sure. But this is Dynasty. Is he gonna be that way in 3 years? I think that both of those players have extremely high ceilings. So
sure.
If you are going for the win, if you're going for your championship next year, that's fine. But I still think that you could have gotten more for the 101. I mean, people are still skeptical of Jalen Hurts. People are not skeptical of Bijan Robinson for any reason. So I think if you would have waited, you might have been able to get Jalen Hurts and a second-round pick. Maybe you would have been able to get, even flip that for even a better quarterback than Hurts. I know Hurts is like QB 1 or 2 this year. I don't know that we project him to be 1 or 2 next year. So, this might have been a move that I would wait, but I don't know what the rest of your roster looks like. You might be loaded at running back and wide receiver.
It's funny, Felix, though, you were talking about if you're trying to go for the win, and then the way I look at this, and King Koopa, he says this is an Empire League. So if this is a league where you have the chance to end it and, you go win this Empire, it's even more of a smash. For me personally, the way the Superflex landscape is at quarterback, I want Jalen Hurts here pretty easily. I'm a believer now in Jalen Hurts, and Mike and I both were more skeptics to start with. We'll just call it what it is. I'm not going to come out here and lie to you. So for me, I want Jalen Hurts. Like, I understand Felix's point, though. 101 is going to continue to accrue value, so maybe you could have waited. For me, though, I'll just cash out for a top 5 quarterback in Dynasty today. And in the Empire League, if you have a chance to go win it and end it, go ahead.
I got like 8 quarterbacks that I would take over the 101 straight up right now.
So what would that – Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert 6, Trevor Lawrence 7, Justin Fields?
Justin Fields.
Okay.
There's the list. I would take every one of them over the 101. And Bijan's fantastic. But in a Superflex league, quarterbacks rule it.
I don't even know that Felix and I would even fight you on that because there's no way. But the reality of this is the Chris Olave for a third is drastically different.
I think the biggest difference or the selling point here is I think there's a pretty fair difference between the 101 where it goes, even if it's Bijan, and Jalen Hurts, who's a top 3, top 4 quarterback at worst.
Yeah, and I hear you.
I think you can make a case, especially with Jalen Hurts, and the community's kind of coming around to it a little bit. I don't know if it's right or not, but the whole Josh Allen thing in the playoffs, people starting to panic about it, being dumb. There's going to be some drafts where you see Jalen Hurts as the second quarterback off the board and the second pick in your startup drafts quite often. So if you're telling me I'm getting a locked-in elite quarterback like Jalen Hurts, and this is me being a complete fanboy about Jalen Hurts right now, but from where I started, he's impressed me, and he's done it in quarterback scoring, right? Number 1 quarterback in points per game this year. Last year without A.J. Brown, just Devontae Smith and whatever the hell Jalen Reagor is, QB6. And the progression keeps getting better and better. Now you're looking at a guy taking his team to the Super Bowl. So I'm all in on Jalen Hurts, man. He's one of the elite quarterback assets. Not Patrick Mahomes, but pretty damn close.
I get it. All right, so Matt says it's his first time hitting the AMA Live. Matt, we appreciate you hitting the AMA Live with us for the first time.
What up, Matt?
Just curious how you'd set up a startup with rookie and Devy aspect in January. We're leaning snake kicker placeholders for 3 rounds of rookies, but not sure about Devy. I guess this is going to be geared toward more towards Felix. I mean, we play some Devy too, but Felix is the C2C guy. What do you say here, Felix?
Yeah, the funny thing is the only Devi leagues that I've played are C2Cs, but I think generally the way that these would be set up is you would have your startup draft, you would have a separate rookie draft, and then you would also have a separate Devi draft. So if you want that to be, 3 to 5 rounds, probably three, if you're just getting started and you haven't done Devi before, maybe 3 rounds, maybe 2 rounds. So you're lucky. You get this offseason, you get to have 3 separate drafts: your startup, your rookie draft, and then your go ahead and get your Devi guys after that.
I like
Adam,
having 3 drafts too. Go ahead, Mike.
Adam, I know for us, like if we're doing a startup now without the Devi aspect, I'll go ahead and use kickers just because all the rookies aren't in the system. Until all the rookies are in the system, then we'll go ahead and just make it a combined. But for right now, kickers as placeholders. We do kickers as placeholders for the first 36 picks. You just take a kicker, correlates with the pick number as we go in order. The Devi part is interesting, and I don't have any experience in Devi. Last year, I thought about getting into Devi. And then I got talked into campus to Canton, and I'll probably never play in a Devi league, right? I just love playing college football.
If you want to play Devi, I just would rather play C2C because it's
right.
Devi,
so
but college plays.
It's no shade to the Devi people. I just have no fucking no willpower to do it. Like, why? I just play college football for real and try to win money on that side.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to play campus to Canton. So, but I think it's probably right, Felix. I think if I had to set one up, like, I was forced to do a Devi league right now and do a startup, I think you're right. I'd probably do the kickers as the rookie picks in the initial startup draft, but the Devi would be completely separate, right? We're going to have to do a brand new one, keep it separate, and keep it short and simple. Don't get too over stressed about how many Devi players you're drafting.
I mean, Mike, just to kind of underscore the point that you made, in Devi, I love my Devi folks out there, but those players sit on a taxi squad and don't accrue points. While in C2C, I'm up watching Jake Haener and Jalen Cropper, at 10 o'clock at night because Fresno State played a 7 p.m. West Coast game, and I know who these players are, and I'm waiting to get those points on my roster. I mean, it just makes Saturdays so much fun, fun. When you're playing C2Cs, you learn these names. If you're intimidated by it, I would tell you not to be. Because, well, first of all, you can subscribe to campuscanton.com, but it can be intimidating at first, but that's what the challenge is. But I'm telling you, it seems like it's a large player pool. After you play for a while, it really shrinks. And once you get into the community and you start talking to people about players that you need to watch and the systems that you need to get players from, it becomes less intimidating. It's still a challenge, of course, but I mean, that's what I like about it. That's what I like about it, and the fact that it makes Saturdays so much fun.
Well, it does too, and then it also puts me on to players that I would have never known about. College football fandom, NFL fandom, and even guys that probably won't actually make the NFL in any real capacity that'll be something. But I know last year being in C2C for the first time, like I ended up just randomly drafting Daquan Finn, and now I'm like one of the biggest Daquan Finn fans they are, because that guy just
played well against Ohio State. Played well against Ohio State.
He would just flat out dominate for me week in and week out on the college side. Like, I'm a fanboy of Daquan Finn. Now, I don't know what his NFL future holds, if anything, but damn, is it fun to watch him put up them points in college fantasy.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Campus to Canton for me, I never actually played Devi first, so I think maybe that's partly why I have this view of, maybe you call it jaded, whatever it is. But for me, like, okay, pick your poison. I think Devi's kind of in the middle, where it's like in Dynasty you have rookie pick assets which are liquid until they hit the NFL field. But if we're gonna do the college side, why are they just a holding spot? Like, because now I have more risk with the player than I do with the actual pick, and no one's scoring points. If I want to go do the Devi thing, I'd rather have Fantrax, or hopefully not Fantrax moving forward, because I wasn't a big fan of the app. But, I want to see what the college kids are doing, because there's also an added layer with C2C I think people don't quite understand if you haven't played it, which is, one, you have the Devi aspect, right? How are they going to translate to the NFL? But you also have what makes it really fun is you get deep dives, the Mac kids, that aren't the Deontay Johnsons that make the NFL. They can actually score points for you on the college side, right? So there's an added layer of twist there, where maybe this isn't an NFL potential player, but he's going to score points for you on the college side. I think it makes it a lot more fun to do the C2C if I'm going to do Devy. I also haven't played Devy, though, so I'm a little biased. And I got Felix and Matt, in my back pocket. These are my guys, so I'm pushing C2C till I die. All right, we got so many questions, man. We got to try to – well, I'll tell you what. We'll go as long as you want us to go, and we got Felix on. But I'm just looking, and it is like, holy hell. We have questions upon questions, and we may have had the most concurrent viewers we've ever had here. No surprise with Felix being in the building. T-Rock, this is more of a statement than a question. I think it's too early to make this move 101. This was the 101 for the 104. The third best quarterback falls later in the draft, and we expect none of the wide receivers to go super high in the draft. I'd wait. T-Rock, I'm okay if you want to wait. I think I already said that if you think you can get more, but like value-wise, I'm not opposed to 2 top 6 picks. There's a lot that can happen. All right. What's your thoughts here? Benjamin Paul says 12-team Superflex PPR, start 8. So shallow starters, offense, and then start 8 IDP. He's going to give 106 in Pickens to get 102 and 302. Ooh, I don't know. Felix, what do you say here? 106 in Pickens was what he'll give away for the 102 and the 302. Like this is paying up for what you think your flavor of quarterback is.
Right. And you with the shallow starters, you got to have some of the elite guys. So I guess he's going for Bryce Young or CJ Stroud.
Right.
Probably Bryce Young. I don't think I necessarily have a problem with that given the format.
Mike, what do you say? We don't even play in any. Start 9 is as shallow as I get. Now this is 8 IDP on the other side, but this is shallow starters.
8 offensive guys, man. I think I'm okay with it, right?
You know what? I would do it too.
For a quarterback. And there's still a realistic case. I mean, we talk about quarterbacks and how they kind of run super flex, but, say Gibbs hits all the benchmarks, right? He weighs in at 205 and he runs fantastic and he goes in the first round to a premium spot. There's going to be a lot of conversations because that tape is really good on Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, he brings a lot to the table. That's a guy even in a start 8, right? If you got 2 running back positions or 1 running back position with good landing spot, good draft capital, hits the benchmarks for size that you want, that's a dude you'd plug in just about any format, no matter the starting lineups, and feel pretty good about.
The more and more I'm thinking about it and listening to you guys talk, I'm doing this. Now, I'll say this. Everyone listening and watching, if they're not playing in a start 8 league, like this same answer doesn't apply to best ball and across different leagues. Start 8, though, this is the big thing for me. I don't play any, but I play in start 9. But the shallow the starters get in lineup, if it's super flex, the more valuable the quarterback position becomes, right? Because if you have the 2 elite quarterbacks, you're winning at a huge edge there, and now the players that can catch up at less points per game is smaller. So if you're talking 6 skill players versus 2 quarterbacks, actually, yeah, go get that 102 here. I think in a lot of other formats, I'd rather
302 you might get Chase Brown or somebody, or hey, in Superflex maybe Tank Bigsby for some reason falls to the third round if he's a day 3 pick. So you can. This is a very deep running back. Maybe it's not Chase Brown. Maybe it's Dwayne McBride. I mean, you're going to be able to get a running back there at the 302 that you'll feel comfortable.
Maybe it's Izzy out of Pitt. I mean, but to your point, I'm with you. The 302 all of a sudden is this running back class is going to give you a shot at a running back that could actually fire. So I'm with it. All right. So messed up
Getting
the
all
thing
messed
here.
up here, Adam.
Yeah, I'm out here tripping. All right. I gotta stop putting Matt's craziness on the screen. He's out here trying to hold the show hostage. All right, Perpetual Energy. If you had 101 and the 102 in Dynasty Superflex, would you sell both or hold on to one or use them both if your team has no running back talent currently? I mean, well, I'll start off by saying, would you sell both? All my assets can go on any one of my teams for the right price. So I'm not like locking myself into holding or trading. What I will say is the fact that you have 101 and 102 is different than a lot of people because you have Bijan. See the weird part about this class for people is running back values are really down. But Bijan is just this superstar hero RB type that people can't keep their hands off of and want. The problem with having 101 is, do you take the top quarterback in Superflex or do you take Bijan? Having this here, this leverage, you get both. You get both. And so that is an added piece that I think gives more value to having both. So if I'm going to move these, like I would need a little more than I would standardly for the 101 or the 102. I don't know what you guys think about that, Felix and Mike.
Nah, I wouldn't say that you have to sell them, right? But you always have that option. But it's the same thing. Like if it's a 1 QB league and you're sitting here and going like, I'm going to take my choice of the number 1 wide receiver, Jahmyr Gibbs at the 102, and with the 101, I'm taking Bijan. I'm completely fine with that. That's a great foundation piece for your team. And Superflex, we've already talked about the value of the quarterback at the 102, so you're in a perfect spot. Definitely don't let them go for cheap, though. Like, you hold your league hostage. You want one of these guys, you want this option of getting Bijan, or you want this option of getting the number 1 quarterback. If it's a Superflex league or the number 2 running back, like I was just talking about with Gibbs, if he hits all those things, you're going to come pay for it. And there are some people who will give you an absolute dynasty-changing haul, right? That'll set you up for the next 2-3 years just with the amount of draft capital, players, et cetera, that they'll give you. So you're in a great spot. Don't feel any pressure. The pressure's on your league, man.
Yeah, Felix, no, you guys put it added to it. You guys set it up perfectly.
All right, bet.
You got a super chat there from Jay. Another one.
Oh my gosh, we got another super chat. Jay Jackson, my boy Jay. Besides Bijan and Gibbs, how many 23 running backs would you take over Swift?
That's a good one.
That's a very good one. I'll let Felix start with this because as much as I love Swift, I'm starting to have a more difficult time with his value.
I don't have a difficult time with Swift's value at all. Let me say that. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's got an elite offensive line. He needs to stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I know people are down on Swift. I think that he's fine. I mean, that ability to catch the ball. I say that he's had some I'm a Detroit Lions fan. He's had some critical drops. Some we lost the game because he dropped the ball in the end zone type drops. That being said, he is a pass catcher. So I think he has a high floor. So let me just write this down. So I would obviously take Bijan and Gibbs over him. Then it becomes a draft capital question because DeAndre Swift was taken in the second round. Is Sean Tucker going to be taken in the second round? Is he going to be taken in the second round, showing that a team wants to prioritize him? Where is Tank Bigsby going to be taken? Is he going to be a day 2 guy, maybe a third round guy? I'm not sure. I think that I would take Tucker ahead of him. Charbonnet, a question. He would be in the mix after the top 2. Is that fair? He would be in the mix after the top 2. We also know his situation. I know he's got an excellent situation there in Detroit with that offensive line with Penei Sewell, Taylor, and Frank Ragnow, the big boys, big hog miles up there at the front. So he would be in the mix after the top 2.
I think that's a good way to put it because there's two big things for me with Swift and why I struggle with what I want to do, and I have Swift love. I mean, let me just tell you, Felix, Swift has been one of my guys, and 2 years ago before the injury, it was looking really good, and then he got hurt, versus Pittsburgh, and then Thanksgiving Day, it was basically a wrap for him. This year, then the injuries happen again. Dan Campbell's back, you know that, and Dan Campbell it seems like he's a little fed up with these injuries. But even if I say, okay, the situation is great, the offensive line's been awesome. You got great stud tackles and a center that are really good. This team is starting to build a lot of assets. The problem is this for me. My love for Swift says he should be third off of here, right? But now we're talking about a year 4 running back, and we know how running backs' values go in Dynasty. That's about where it starts to go down. And this is a guy that's already started to make Dynasty managers very frustrated with his injuries. So if we go into this coming up season and DeAndre Swift has some more injuries and he's only receiving this, 40% snap share, and he's very boomer bust and his floor is low, this is a guy whose value is going to crater for a lot of people. They're just not going to want to deal with the DeAndre Swift thing. I'm more bullish on him than that. I value him higher than that, but part of the problem for me is I like to trade a lot. And so if I'm dead locked into 10 DeAndre Swift shares when nobody wants them, here's the thing with all these rookies, right? You've already alluded to it, right? Zach Charbonnet. Sean Tucker. We don't know what the draft capital is, what the landing spot is. But all these guys, if they were given day 2 draft capital, they reset the timeline. And even though they may not be the talent of Swift to me, we saw what happened with fucking Dameon Pierce this year, guys. Dameon Pierce, because he was a rookie and just happened to land in a situation where he got the work, was being valued like a top 10 dynasty running back because he's young and he's in Houston and he's got all the work. That's the big difference is now Swift is getting to the point where I don't think he's ever going to have that crazy allure that he once did 2 years ago where this guy's tantalizing, he's young, and he can do all 3 downs.
This one's a double-edged sword for me. So strictly to the question about where he would rank in 23 running backs, I'm with you, Felix. Like, I think just to say he's in the mix with those guys after Bijan and Gibbs, like, perfect. If I'm just comparing running backs, but if we look at actual draft pick, this is why I say it's a double-edged sword for me. I've been on this train where I've been like, oh, yeah, I'll take this player, this locked-in player, kind of in this range like where DeAndre Swift's going. I will definitely take this player over a late 23 first-round pick in this class. And the problem that goes into what you were alluding to, Adam, is it doesn't give you a lot of outs. It locks you into a player, and there's always people, just the way the dynasty cycle works, just the way we work as human beings, is this is all we're talking about for like the next 5-6 months. This is all we're going to talk about, where these guys go, how they run, how they look in shorts, what they weighed in at the Senior Bowl. Like that has been my timeline all day today. This is all we're going to talk about, and it leads people into the psychology of there's going to be people in your league who are going to value the 110, the 111, the 201, the 202, the 203. They're going to value that pick and those players more than they're going to value DeAndre Swift. Is it right? Maybe, maybe not. Like there is a very realistic case where DeAndre Swift's everything that we've hoped that he'd be, and he comes out and he smashes next year. That could happen. There's also a very realistic case, like you said, Adam, where we kind of just see some of the same shit that we've already seen, and his value is just going to keep cratering and cratering and cratering where it's an asset where it's hard to move. So if you're talking just running backs, yes, he's in the mix, and we'll have to see how it shakes out. But if you're talking anywhere in terms of pick value, like would I go out and trade my late first for DeAndre Swift right now? Maybe, maybe not. Like it's a situational thing. I think come draft time, come even after the draft, whatever player I take there, I have all summer where those guys are making plays in rookie minicamp, looking good in shorts, and we get to training camp and they're on highlight reels, and somebody's going to be like, damn, I really want that guy. I really want Kayshon Boutte, who you took at the 112. Like, I think he's the next thing. I will give you DeAndre Swift plus to get your Kayshon Boutte. So I don't think like –
oh, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I don't think like right now I want to be spending that draft capital. But to the basic point of the question, yes, Felix, you're 1,000% right. Like any of these guys, I don't know where they're going to be. I don't know how the NFL is going to value them. I think it's a very deep class, but I'm not going to be surprised if there's somebody who thinks, Roshan Johnson is better than DeAndre Swift. And you might get Roshan in the mid part of the third round in your rookie draft. So
yeah.
Well, don't go crazy acquiring DeAndre Swift now, I guess is probably the best thing to say.
Last two things I'll say is one, like Mike said, you might have the running back that gets some steam in the offseason, right, with the right situation, but you also might have the Kenneth Walker thing. Like you may have the running back that you just have to diamond hand because when he gets the backfield reins, RB1. That's the other thing, right? Day 2 running backs, Kenneth Walker was RB1. Nobody, even you and I, Mike, who were high on Kenneth Walker, thought RB1 in Dynasty was even in the cards. So there's that. But then the other thing is from a portfolio aspect, let me say this. If you're in 1 or 2 leagues and you're convicted, DeAndre Swift's going to have this boom. You think he's so talented he's going to work out, fine. But I'll say this from a portfolio aspect. Keep in mind how many shares you have. Like for me, I'm already overexposed on DeAndre Swift. So I'd sit there and, I'd rather have DeAndre Swift in the late first. But do I want to have 15 shares of DeAndre Swift if that goes wrong? I already have 10. Like that's the other problem for me with DeAndre Swift is I'm coming from this, hesitant spot because I have so much exposure and he's hurt me the last 2 years, frankly, in my league. So there's that. We got another super chat. Corey basically is saying, I don't know. Apparently he's seeing we only have 2 likes. I think we have more than that. But if you're watching this, because we have a bunch of concurrent viewers, we had over 40, which I believe is our most we've ever had. So Felix, that's all to you. go hit that like for us. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're new to the channel, we appreciate everyone tapping in. Corey, appreciate the super chat. See, Felix, this is why we can't get through questions. You haven't talked in a few minutes, and we're just out here yabbering.
It's fine, man. It's fine.
I know it's just
guys.
This is what we do. Is we just keep going and going and going. At least we had Felix to settle the Garrett Wilson and Olave thing today.
Damn it!
It's awesome. All right, anyone sit down and watch all 22 on Devon Achane? On paper, he scares me because of his size, obviously, but when I watch him, I can't help but come away impressed. Felix, what are your thoughts on Devon Achane? I know he's very polarizing.
Yeah, he's polarizing because of size, but I mean, he's going to step into the NFL and be one of the fastest players on the field. I have not watched all 22 of him, but my boy Noah Hills, and check him out on TikTok and YouTube at Noah More Parties on Twitter. I believe Noah is impressed with him also. If we took away the fact that he's 185 or whatever he is and he's short, this is a guy that can do a little bit of everything, including running in between the tackles. So, Texas A&M didn't have the season that many thought it would after having that elite recruiting class this year. And so he was off the beaten path as far as TV watching. So maybe the casual fan, and quite frankly, I didn't watch a lot of them either. He's just another reason why this class is so deep. We talked about all those running backs with the last question. One name we didn't say was Zach Evans, and we didn't say Devon Achane here also. So probably going to go in I would guess, the mid-second round of rookie drafts, and it's why you loaded up on 2023 picks wherever you could get them, because you can get Devon Achane in the second round, somewhere in the second round of your rookie drafts.
Yeah, 100%. I'll say this too. He is very polarizing because of his size. Ray said it best, I think, on one of his shows. Devon Achane is going to put everybody's process to the test. Do you believe in the film? Do you believe in the speed? Do you believe in the size? Because even if he weighs in successfully, he's not going to be this 3-down size back. It's just not happening. So for me, it's exciting. The one thing I'll say, the game I watched a lot of was actually, I love App State. I went to school at Lees McRae, which was very close to App State. They took Texas A&M down earlier in the year. So that was the one game I actually saw of them. Devon Achane was okay, but didn't do anything crazy special that I can remember. Mike, what are your thoughts on Devon Achane before we get into some other questions?
I got a little bit of PTSD going back to how I value James Cook pre-draft and how I value James Cook post-draft. I think there's some similarities. Obviously, I think that Achane is probably quite a bit smaller than James Cook ended up actually being.
Sure.
But I had those concerns about a guy who I thought was on the lighter side, showed this amazing speed, this ridiculous burst, did everything that you wanted in the passing game. But then with James Cook, that's different than Devon Achane, is when I watched the two, like James Cook, I still to this day have concerns about contact balance and how he handles contact, and can he actually be effective between the tackles. Excuse me, chops me up right there just talking about James Cook. Devon Achane, I think on tape at least shows that he's able to do that at a much higher level, but the thing that's always going to be there is the size. So it'll be interesting to see what the NFL does. If they give him the draft capital, I'll be in on Devon Achane, especially at cost on where you're going to have to take him in your rookie drafts. Like, I'm in. If I blow that pick, I blow that pick. Oh, well. But if I hit it right, I think that could be a pick that pays off in an incredible way for you. So Ray was 100% right. It's going to test your process. You're going to have to figure out which way you're going to go on him. But I think the payoff, at least on Devon Achane, is phenomenal if you're right. If you're right on him.
By the way, draft capital for running backs now that I feel comfortable, it's anywhere between the second and fourth round, in my opinion. Damian Pierce, Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, we've seen some of these fourth round guys really have success, and we know that running backs aren't going to go in the first round, generally speaking. So anywhere between the second and that first round on day 3, running backs taken in that area, I'm still going to be paying attention to, because that's relatively good draft capital for a running back nowadays. It's not, we're not back in the 1990s, early 2000s. Like, these running backs are falling.
I kind of agree with you there. The one thing I'll say about the round 4 thing is that it could absolutely pay off. You could get the Damian Pierce thing, Ramondre Stevenson. The one thing I'll say, though, is the investment being day 3. like now we look at like an Isaiah Spiller, right? That we were super excited about. We're like, okay, the Chargers, great landing spot. Now the one thing is with the early day 3 draft capital, they don't have enough invested in Spiller to probably give him much more push. Whereas round 2, let's say early day 2 draft capital, the investment's higher where they're going to give you an extra year or so. But to your point, I'm with you. Like early day 3 draft capital in the 4th round specifically is enough to where it's not day 2, but it's definitely means a lot. And this is a team investment. And Tyler Algier, I think, was also in that range too. So I really like it. All right, John Smith, 24 draft class is sick for QB and wide receiver. Super strong class. We are all over the 24 class, Felix. So I don't want to make you go through all of it, but like 23 and 24 class, what would you rather have if you could have the whole thing?
Well, I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. is at the quarterback class. I think it's about even. Between Drake May and Caleb Williams. The wide receiver class, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., and then I need to look at my ranking to see who else is in the 2024 class. Give me a second here.
Take your time, buddy. You're good.
I mean, I think of it. I don't know that the 24 wide receiver class is as strong as this one. I mean, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., then you're going to have Xavier Worthy, Emeka Egbuka, Jacob Cowan could come out, Ja'Cory Brooks. I mean, we're already in names that I'm like not – Troy Franklin. I think I'd much rather have the 2023 wide receiver class. The quarterback class is probably even. I think I'm higher on C.J. Stroud than most. I would put C.J. Stroud in the same conversation as Drake May and Caleb Williams. So
okay.
I'm definitely going. I'm leaning even on the quarterback class, but this wide receiver class, the players who will be 2024 eligible, a lot of them have not kind of established themselves as alphas.
Mm-hmm.
If Xavier Worthy is your number 2, he had a terrible 2023 year. Emeka Egbuka is fine, but I don't know that he's established himself as an alpha. Then we're talking about Ja'Cory Brooks, who couldn't even get on the field for Alabama earlier in the season. Troy Franklin's fine, but I would like to your commenter who he likes in 2024, because at this point I don't see players. They could have a great 2023 season, and then now we're excited about 2024. But as far as the wide receiver position, I don't see a bunch of guys that I'm just like, all right, I gotta trade for 2024 picks so I can get these wide receivers. I mean, I'm talking about Bo Collins, again, Ja'Cory Brooks. I mean, there's a lot of question marks across college football after this 2023 class left, and it left a lot of holes.
I'm with you as far as the depth goes. I do think, though, probably, and I can't speak for the commenter, but the difference is that I think if everything continues to go right for Marvin Harrison Jr., he's the wide receiver you want out of both classes. But I'm with you that I think 23, actually right now, at least of what we know on a depth perspective, might be better than 24. Yeah. We'll see what 24 has to bring, though, with another whole full year, to your point. Mike, what do you have to say?
I'd say the biggest difference for me is this class I think we identified was deep early on, and that's what made trading for 23 seconds so appealing.
Right.
Just get any picks that you can in the first and second round, you'll be fine. Take the discount, get second round picks so people aren't going to value them. I will say my approach to 24 is I don't know the depth, and Felix kind of alluded to it. There may not actually be that great of a depth, but I think the star power at the top and getting those shots on getting a Caleb Williams or Drake May, if Matt's boy Quinn Ewers actually puts it together and comes out next year, having those elite quarterbacks in Superflex drafts will be incredible. You got Travion Henderson, a guy that we didn't see a lot from this year, but we saw the talent his freshman year, and then my boy Braylon Allen. Whether he's actually a legitimate NFL running back or not, I guess is up for debate for a lot of people, but I love the guy. And then, of course, I mean, you touched on it, the star power of, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Rocket
could
Sanders.
be the next coming. As long as Felix stops comping him to Mike Williams and making me hate him. If we could stick with the faster T. Higgins, I'd love that.
Man, we got another super chat. Felix, we're keeping Felix way longer than we probably told him we would, but super chats are coming in, and Felix is all smiles, so we're gonna keep rolling. Castle Black, we appreciate you, my guy. Savage member, Castle Black is one of the staples in the shithead community. Yo, fellas, just finished a startup and punted running back. I have 103, 106 in half the second round. What RBs am I targeting after the obvious Bijan and Gibbs? We kind of already touched on this earlier. I don't know if you're just bouncing in, Castle Black, to the stream, but a lot of it's going to depend on draft capital. So Felix was already talking about, does Sean Tucker get the draft capital? Zach Charbonnet, I think it looks like he's in line to get the draft capital, but you still need to see it. But Zach Charbonnet, Devon Achane, depending on what your process is, he's going to be polarizing because of his size, but likely to get the draft capital. I mean, I'll let you kind of continue to touch on this.
Well,
I think there's
the
a
other
bunch of
name
them.
we got to throw out there, the people that I respect really like Zach Evans, a curvier, linear mover, a slasher type running back, 5-star prospect who had some, off the field issues coming into college. I think people are saying, oh, well, he didn't carry the load this year at Ole Miss, but Quentin Judkins was a stud, and he did fine at Ole Miss. He was fine at TCU. Zach Evans has to be in there, and then I still like Tank Bigsby. I really do. I think that Tank Bigsby is like a plus version of David Montgomery. David Montgomery has had, been a RB2-ish, and I'm saying that Tank Bigsby is probably 150% of that.
Yeah.
So he could find himself and then Tank Bigsby was an excellent pass catcher in high school, was not used that way at Auburn. So,
Tank Bigsby about a year ago too was in the conversation of like top 3 running back in this class.
Oh, 100%. Right there with Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs. And then the other one is Dwayne McBride out of UAB. Now, Dwayne McBride is going to be a 2-down running back, but so is Nick Chubb. So in the third round, it depends on what round you're taking him. In the second round, I'm looking for Zach Evans, Tank Bigsby, Sean Tucker, Zach Charbonnet. In the third round of my rookie drafts, I'm pushing the button on Roschon Johnson. I'm pushing the button on Dwayne McBride. I mean, there's so many different directions you can go as far as running back in this particular class. But those are some of the guys that I'm targeting.
I'm also looking at one name you didn't mention, which I think, depending on where he falls, Israel Abanikanda, I think out of Pittsburgh, could be somebody you're looking at too. And I think to Felix's point, like this is where I'm on record. I want all the 23 seconds, early thirds. This is where you can clean up in a lot of these drafts at the running back position if you've rostered your team appropriately, and you could take a bunch of shots. Like there's a lot of guys that could end up in very good situations. Mike, anything further on that point with Castle Black?
Yeah, just looking at it right now, it's still early. There's still a lot to play out in the process. Like I'm going to pay attention heavily to the Senior Bowl. I'm going to be paying attention to all the news coming in, what NFL teams are meeting with what players. We got the Combine, and then obviously draft capital is going to be a huge one. But just looking at it early, man, I got 13 running backs in my top 24 players in my Superflex rookie ranks. Like 13 running backs. That's pretty crazy to me.
Well, and when you think about it, 2 versus 22, I don't mean to cut you off, but think about how different that is than 22, Mike, right?
Yeah. So 13 running backs in the top 24. The other crazy thing when I looked at it is I do have some like wide receivers mixed in the second round. But if I look at who's the RB3, I literally have 6 guys right next to each other in ranks. And when I look at all 6 of them, I go, man, I can see a case where this guy's the RB3. And this even goes to like guys like Roschon Johnson, who I'm a big fan of, probably unheralded as Bijan's backup, but he has the size. I think he has the speed. We'll kind of see how the NFL drafts him. There were some rumblings that some people have him as the RB3 in the NFL community in this draft class. Well, it remains to be seen, but these are just kind of the guys that you have lumped in together. So if I look at that tier, it's like Tank, Roschon, Sean Tucker, Zach Evans, Zach Charbonnet, Kendre Miller, and we're not even down to guys that I really like that are interested in Devon Achane, Chase Brown, Dwayne McBride. You talked about Israel. And then farther down, there's even some other running backs that I'm going, I wonder, right? Tajay Spears, surprisingly, weighed in today, heavier than I think anybody thought. And his tape is absolutely fucking electric. Yeah. Absolutely electric. There's some big Kenny McIntosh fans out there.
Right.
And then former Devy campus to Canton darling Eric Gray remains to be seen how the NFL actually values him. So there are some guys out there where it's an incredible deep running back class. There'll be a lot to shake out between now and when you're going to draft Castle Black, but never fear, man. Sitting with the 103, the 106, and half of the second round, if you punted running back, it was a great year to do a startup draft and punt running back and just backload on rookie picks and be able to find a running back room that's going to be competitive and competent for you heading into 23.
Yeah, absolutely. Point is, with that super chat, Castle Black, once again, we appreciate it. Everybody listening, running back is so damn deep in 23, and when we get draft capital and landing spots, it's going to be a field day in the second round and even in the third. So I'm going to try to get to all the questions here. If you've asked one that has been missed, please make sure you ask it quickly. We're going to try to get through some of these because we've already kept Felix. He's loving it because he's the damn champ, but we've already kept him way longer than we thought we would. And we also have an insane amount of people in here now. We're getting to almost to 50 concurrent viewers. All right, so Jaden, 10-team Superflex half PPR start 10. Lance Garrett Wilson 110 for Hurts and a 24-second. 10-team, to me, the one thing I'll say about 10-team is it takes the needle down on quarterbacks. Now, you still want the elite ones, but you don't. There's the scarcity issue is not as big of a deal.
Quickly for me, I'm going to take the Hurts, the 110 in the second. I think I want that side.
I'm seeing Lance Garrett Wilson at 110 for Hurts and a 24-second, Mike.
And the 110. Okay. Yeah, the 110 on the Lance Garrett Wilson in a 10-team. As much as I talked up Hurts, give me that. Give me Lance Garrett Wilson, the 110.
I actually agree. What do you think, Felix? Are you with that or no?
I don't agree with playing in 10-team leagues. And
there you go. Now we're talking.
That's the real answer.
You got to add an E to the end of your name. You got to add an E. You got to add an E.
Oh, I like that too. I like that. 12-team leagues at minimum and add the E on the end of Sharpe. Great points. Wow, I didn't even notice that. See, that's the observance of Mr. Sharpe. So, okay, I'm guessing same league. 10-team, this is start 10. Ayuk, Stevenson, 109 for Lawrence. I'm trying to think here. I might be a little more okay with this one because you're not giving up a Lance. But at the same time, you want these quarterbacks in 10-team league.
You might not even be starting any of Ayuk, Stevenson, or the 109. So
right.
The Lawrence.
Right. I think that's where I still will take Lawrence here because you need more studs on the offensive side of the ball and the skill player spots. Lawrence is still a top 10 quarterback that can be a difference maker even in 10-team leagues. I think I'm with you there. Mike, you agree or no?
Yeah, I want Lawrence out of this one. The other one, you're getting a quarterback back.
That's the difference. The other one, you're getting Lance, which we're all high on and having a chance to take the San Francisco job, which is very exciting. Okay, so, all right, Mr. B just came over from Scott, Shane, and Clay's Live. Quick question. 12-team Superflex PPR start 11. I have Mahomes, which is awesome. What would you pay right now to get Kelce? I have the 103, 108, 111, 203, 207, 210. Mike, let me ask you this.
That 108. That 108 is gone.
Let me ask you guys this real quick. Let's start from the beginning. With this type of a team, if you want to go win now, are you willing to sell 103 for Kelce straight up?
Nope.
I wouldn't either.
Thank you.
Wouldn't either.
No, thank you. He's phenomenal, man, and I want to pair him with Mahomes, no doubt. That's the best stack in fantasy football right now.
But there's a lot of age risk, though.
There is a ton of age risk.
There's a ton. And seeing Superflex is where I would hesitate there. I think 108, even 108 plus, I would consider. Go ahead, though, Felix.
These elite tight ends, these Hall of Fame tight ends, they have aged gracefully. I mean, to age 38. So think about Jason Witten, Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez, and Travis Kelce is definitely in that range of tight end. So I don't. What is Travis Kelce? 37? Is he 37 years old?
He's like 33,
somewhere around there.
33.
He ain't that old, but yeah.
Oh, if he's 30, if he's 33, he's still got a lot of time left. I think would we be surprised if Travis Kelce is still a tight end 3 years from now? I don't. I personally.
No, I think
this is the tight end position. He presents such value and such plus over what you get in replacement value at that position.
You know what? Well, you bring up a good point. But I think the problem for me is that 103 is a quarterback in Superflex. The other thing I don't have here, Mr. B, is what is the tight end premium? Like if this is, 2 points for every one, maybe. But I still think what I would rather do and try at least is I'd send 108 first, just straight up, and then I'd send 108, even 108 plus I would be willing to do. But Mike, what do you think here? Like I really don't want to send 103 personally.
Like the one that I think might reasonably get accepted and would be like the offer if I really wanted to nail it, 108, the 207, and 210, and I'd send that and see what
I think that's
say.
a good
like,
one.
The person's going to look at it and go, I'm getting a first and 2 seconds for Travis Kelce, who's on the older side.
Hold on real quick. I mean, this matters a little bit, but not. He says no tight end premium at all. So he's still great. It's just not relative to the rest of the field. He's not going to be scoring as much.
Right. He's not going to be a wide receiver 1 as far as scoring goes.
Exactly.
He's going to be very good, but just not the wide receiver.
I would still send that in non-tight end premium, 108, 207, 210 to get the stack. Especially because you have the stack, I think I'd be more willing
or,
to do that.
some people, too, they're also going to want 2 picks at the turn, so you could try like 111 and 203.
What about 108 and 111? Is that too rich? Is that too rich?
If I absolutely had to, but I'm not doing that move right now. Like
I think
I'm gonna let that marinate for a while.
I don't think 108 is too much. I mean, that's what I would do. I'd be getting rid of that 108 for Travis Kelce.
Agreed. Yeah, I would start with the 108. I think my absolute max would be 108 and 111, but I don't think I'm sending that today. I think that those picks have more time to accrue value, and Travis Kelce is going to be awesome, but viewed as getting older in the offseason. So the way that it values
this is something that I've been thinking of that we haven't said. When you're making these trades, you're sending the 108 and 111 for Travis Kelce or whatever. Ask for a third-round pick in 2023 back. Mm-hmm. Ask for a late second back. You might get it, and you'd be surprised at the players that are going to be left over there.
That's a great point Felix is making right now. If you end up having to pay what is closer to your top dollar, throw-ins in this class, which people typically are just, yeah, sure, whatever. The early thirds in this class are not throw-ins. They are, if they're throwing in your trade, that's great, but they're not a typical throw-in. Great point by Felix Sharpe there. All right, so let's get to a few of these other questions, and then we'll get up out of here. We're getting close to the end. All right, Mario Williams, Worthy, Harrison. Oh, man, I'm out here tripping. Troy Franklin and JoJo Earl, not to mention the best tight end, Brock Bowers. This is the 24 class. I mean, yeah, but Brock Bowers isn't really the receiver.
Who do you have faith in that group? If you
Harrison Jr. Harrison Jr. That's it.
Anything? Yes, Harrison Jr. Mario. I'm the biggest Mario Williams fan. He hasn't done anything, even with Jordan Addison injured. Troy Franklin's fine. Worthy had a terrible year this year. I love JoJo Earl. But he's been injured. He hasn't played a lot. I mean, to say that I'm trading for 2024 picks to get those guys, get out of here. Get out of here. Some of those guys might still be playing in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, obviously too, the NIL stuff throws a wrench in things. I think the reality is, Harrison Jr. is awesome. I want all the shares of Harrison Jr., especially the way that wide receiver is currently being valued. The other guys though have their risk. Worthy's a big name. Troy Franklin's been good, but how high is he going to really go? I don't know. We'll see. I think 24 is very good. It's a great class. But the one thing I'll say too is with time, especially like 2023, don't overdo trading into 24 when there's a lot of stuff in 23 that's going to pick up value. Joey Pascal says Brock Bowers is going to be a monster. I agree fully with this. I like Brock Bowers quite a bit. Felix, you quite high on Brock Bowers?
Yeah, Brock Bowers is fine. I'm going to take a tight end at the 102. Like, of all the players that you named other than Harrison, Brock Bowers is the player that I have the most faith in.
Agreed.
But again, tight end. Kyle Pitts, we just took him at what? People were saying take him at the 101. I don't know that Brock Bowers is the level of player that Kyle Pitts is. I mean, Brock Bowers as a tight end is not going to elevate this 2024 receiving class above 2023 for me. He just isn't.
I can get behind that. I think, the tight end position too, like Kyle Pitts was what everybody wanted because he's basically a receiver that got the tight end tag as far as what he's going to slot in a Dynasty. And then we all kind of got burned a little bit this year, myself included. You can kind of see the very edge of the wing on the Kyle Pitts giant sticker I had made up. It, and now you can see it's covered up because it was like his season. Didn't do shit.
And how many times are we going to do this with the tight ends? We had Evan Ingram, O.J. Howard. Who was the third guy in that? David Njoku.
Njoku. Well, Njoku's at least
–
caught some value back, but it took a long time, and he lost a ton of value.
It took a long time, but none of those guys have been the fantasy difference makers, including Evan Ingram, who had a skill set very similar to Kyle. It's where he played wide receiver. None of those guys have returned the value that we thought that they would.
Well, even look at not as highly touted, but like you look at Dallas Goedert, who was someone everybody was super excited about. It took a while for Zach Ertz to get out of the way, and then now what? You got Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown there, and as great as he is, he's not like a difference maker at the tight end position. He's a great tight end. So I'm with you. I want a lot of Brock Bowers, but I'm agreeing with you that it's not like going to make or break the entire class. Cody, great point here. So we haven't got Kendre Miller brought up. So, Mike, where are you at with him? And then Felix, your thoughts on Kendre Miller going into this 23 class here?
I like Kendre. That's why I got him lumped in with all those other guys I was talking about earlier, right? There's a group of 5 or 6 of them where it's like, could they be the RB3? 100%. So I think Kendre's fine. There's just so much to go on about how these running back ranks shake out for me. Kendre's dope, though.
Felix?
Yeah, I haven't studied him a lot other than knowing Valerie, my colleague at Canton, have been high on, and Corey Pereira have been high on Kendre, really since he was sharing the backfield with Zach Evans. I'm not going to act here like I've studied him a lot, but another reason why your third round picks in Dynasty this year are valuable, because he's a potential bell cow. He has been for TCU. So.
Yeah, sorry for the lack of in-depthness there, Cody, but the reality is super deep class. I like Kendre Miller from what I've seen, the little bit of him I've seen on film. But ultimately for me, here's the thing with Kendre Miller. I think draft capital is going to be the biggest thing. If he's day 2 guy, I'm going to be very in on Kendre Miller. But there's so many other running backs in this class that if he didn't get day 2 draft capital, I'd probably comfortably move to somebody else in this class. We got maybe the best question of the day, and this one's directed for Felix. So, Felix, T-Rock wants to know, 12-team Superflex. Felix, who wins in a fist fight, Mike or Adam?
Not doing it. Not doing it.
Come on, baby.
You can't make me do it.
T-Rock, if you super chat it, he might answer the question, but he's not going to answer it as a regular one.
That money ain't coming to me. You can
shoot. I'll pass it to your way, and you can tell me that he kicked my ass. I'll pass it.
Listen, man, are we talking just a standing fist fight? Right, because if we got to stand and bang, this dude's 6'4". Like, he's got the reach on me. I ain't never getting inside on that. If we're talking
if Mike gets me to the ground, though, I'm not gonna like what's happening.
This is fucking over. If I get him on the ground,
but I'm not gonna let you get me to the ground because I know it's a wrap for me. I'm in trouble on the ground.
Every single person in the state of Iowa knows how to wrestle, right? Every single person here. We all about that wrestling life. I get you to the ground, you're done.
Listen, man, we're guarding the legs, the long legs. I'm not letting them get me to the ground. We're staying up top. I'm using the 6'8", 6'9" wingspan. We're gonna hit him up top. But if he gets me to the ground, it's a wrap. So fist fight, I like my chances. If he gets me ground and pound, I'm just gonna tap out.
The other thing,
I'm gonna tap out. I'm gonna let Felix tap me out.
How many rounds we going? Because I got about a 2-minute stretch in me, and then I'm out. I'm done.
On the ground, though, I don't know if I even like my chances even in 2 rounds. All right, let me see if there's one last question. We're going to do one last question. I'll find it. Damn. All right, I'm going to give you 2 questions. 2 questions, and that's it. We're calling it. We got to get the fuck out of here. It's almost 2 hours. Felix, man, we appreciate you hopping on. And we owe you a collab back if you want us on. If you're like, you know what, these dudes kept me on for 2 hours. I don't want them on anymore. Right. That's cool. I got the 101, 102, 109, 110. 10-team Superflex PPR. I have Watson, Cousins, Rodgers. Love. Should I draft a QB or load up on position players? 10-team quarterback. I think in 10 teams with the quarterbacks you have, I'm cool. I'm probably not drafting one. What do you think, Mike?
I mean, maybe you want to take one like if somebody falls to the 109, like the QB4.
Sure.
Like you just take them because it's the best value. But 101, 102. I generally don't want to draft for need, but in this situation, man, it's a 10 team. You're already kind of set at quarterback. Just go ahead and take the best players for your team and just move on from there.
Yeah, 10 team, I'm with that. Felix, any other thoughts?
No, I mean, I think that you are – Rodgers could be a starter depending on where he's traded. So could Love. I don't know what your running back depth is like, but obviously you're going to start you're likely going to start Bijan, and then Gibbs too. I mean, you know Gibbs might be a flex for you. So yeah, I don't have a problem with loading up on at the 101 and 102. I would take the top two running backs, and at the 109, if Anthony Richardson falls to you at the 109, and he's a first round pick, then that's who I would be targeting at.
Or maybe even Mike's 102, Will Levis falls to you, which is more likely probably because it's right. Will Levis. But all right, last question of the night. Q-Top gets the question. Hey guys, just won the championship, but don't want to get complacent and sit on Eckler and Jacobs. What should I look to move them for, but still compete? Kind of a good question here, Mike, to finish up and wrap up the show. Trying to sell high on guys that are probably in their peak as far as production on the field, but can you really replace it? Is it better to hold, or what do you think here?
So I had to look real quick just to kind of see where they were going in startup draft, and the most recent one I have is Austin Eckler's going before the 103 pick. No question about it. I'd fucking trade Austin Eckler away for the 103 pick. Coming off a championship, I'm more open to doing this kind of stuff too, like staying more liquid and fluid. That could be Jahmyr Gibbs that you replace him with. That could be a quarterback. You're just going to load up on value right now. You're not trying to win a championship in February. You're trying to win a championship next year. So go ahead and move him. If anyone wants to give you the 103, 104, probably the 105 for Austin Eckler, I go ahead and take that. Jacobs, a little bit tougher of a sell just because the community's always been down on Josh Jacobs, always disrespected, but he's going ahead of the 105 pick Adam, and I don't think that's a question for me. 105, 106, 107, 108, I'd send Josh Jacobs away for any of those picks this year's class right now.
Jacobs for a top 8-9 pick, I'm in. Easy. Cash out. He's coming off an awesome season, and he's getting to the point where he's going to, be the free agent and the aging asset. So I'm out on that. Eckler, I think it's interesting because with him, it's almost like a Kelce type thing, like on a warp level. Do I just hold and just as a contender, or do I try to risk playing in the rookie values? Felix, what do you think?
Listen, this past year I have found running backs like this to be extremely difficult to trade and get a first round draft pick now. And now we're getting closer to the draft. Those picks, the value is going up. And we know that with veteran players like Eckler and Jacobs, their value peak is during the season. Mm-hmm. So I would take Jahmyr Gibbs if I could. I don't think that you can for either one of these guys. I think the best bet is probably to hold because I don't think that you're going to be able to get the return that you want. I've tried to trade Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones. These guys have just been very, very difficult to trade because dynasty leaguers are just getting sharper and sharper, and they want younger and younger running backs on their first contract. So I think that you're going to have a tough time trading either one of these guys, and I'm not going to let them go, for some replacement level value. So it may just be the move to just hold. Sometimes the best moves are the ones that you don't actually make, and we just have to accept that sometimes.
Felix, I think that's preaching something that needs to be heard right now. Sometimes don't overthink it. Now, I'll say this. Q-Top drops in some context. So he's got Chase, Lamb, Wilson, and Godwin. Great receivers. He's got Burrow in the Chase stack, which is awesome. He's got Deshaun Watson, who I'm still very high on, and Geno. He's got the 103 and the 104, which so you're not going to get Bijan unless you trade into it. I think one of those picks you can get Gibbs. I'm almost tempted here, unless I'm getting a top 6 pick, to maybe just kind of backfill youth and ride production, like especially with Eckler.
One thing I'd be really tempted to do here too is to down tier. And down tier into something that people think is even more disgusting than these running backs, right? So what I mean by that is you take a Austin Eckler, and maybe you drop down if you want to make a bet on J.K. Dobbins or Cam Akers or Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones.
Oh my God, yes.
And then you get, it doesn't have to be a first, but you could probably ask for one of these late first. But think about what we've been talking. But think about what we've been talking about. If you can't get that, like what you can reasonably get into. Like, what about like the 205 and the 206 or one of those picks, right? You know you're going to get one of these deep-ass running backs in this class, and you're getting one of these old, crusty running backs. You're already in an old, crusty position, so why not go down to another guy that you're going to make a bet on and then also backfill with another youthful running back, which people may not value correctly right now.
The other thing I think I'll say, last point, Q-Top, that I'll say, and I'll kick it to Felix to get us out of here. Because we need to be up out of here. Listen, this is love right here. Felix is out here for 2 full fucking hours kicking it with everybody.
Man,
we are doing AMA for 2 hours, so we appreciate every one of you tapping in all the super chats, all the love. The last point I'm going to make though is that Felix made a great point during the show that I think applies right here. If you do this, and someone really wants Jacobs, they think they can compete next year, they're going to buy Jacobs at the wrong time because rookie values are going up and players that are aging are going down, or Eckler. Whatever you settle on the pick of rookie picks, Felix's point, add in the third-round pick that the player has, or both. Add in those third-round picks where you can now shoot another shot to replace the running back position, because that's I think, the biggest thing. You now can get that first-round pick, even if it ends up being later, but you get a second shot at the dartboard to go get one of these youthful running backs that if they pop, Dameon Pierce, Tyler Algier, one of these guys, now you've doubled your money. So I think that's the last point I'll make. But Felix, man, we appreciate you hopping on, doing a absolute AMA marathon. Matt Bruning and I were talking. It's funny, Matt, you probably still aren't here, but Matt and I were talking shit because Mike wasn't here either about how Mike could never go this long. Here we go, man. Look, we got Felix saying, you know what, fuck that. C2C is here, and I'm here because we're going just as long, if not longer, than Matt Bruning and I did. So, man, we appreciate it. Any last final thoughts or things you want to say before we get up out of here, buddy?
Matt is always telling me in the private chat when we do Devy Debate that we in the show. So I'm going to remind him of this note tomorrow when we record. But
yeah,
give us a follow at Campus to Canton. If you have any questions about C2Cs, you can DM me at Sharpe Review. But go ahead and subscribe to our stuff, Campus to Canton, wherever you get your fantasy football entertainment. Mike and Barnabas Lee, Valerie and Barnabas Lee are reporting live on the Senior Bowl this year. They're our correspondents, so you can check them out every day this week at 6 p.m. Eastern time on the Campus to Canton podcast feed, just recapping the day's events and news and notes and stuff from the Senior Bowl. So check that out too.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you are subbed and checking out the Campus to Canton stuff. One, because Felix is out here showing love, but two, because it's honestly better for you in your Dynasty leagues. Even if you're not playing Devy or C2C, check them out. They're going to help you get ahead of the curve with young guys coming in. So, Felix, thank you for hopping on. It's been far too long since we did a collab, man, because we kicked it with you at the Expo. A lot of good vibes. Really glad you hopped on. Mike, any final thoughts before we get up out of here, man?
No, man, just reiterating thanks to Felix, man. It was so great to get to meet you at the Expo. It's so awesome having you on here. I love all the stuff that you guys are doing at Campus Canton. You helped me out this last year, my foray into C2C leagues, not to make an asshole out of myself in every league and finish dead last. I actually did pretty well for myself, all considering. So big shout out. If you're interested in C2C, make sure you check them out. You should be interested in C2C. Adam and I keep getting more and more interested, and there'll be another patron league that will be starting up that will be C2C. So Felix, thank you. And final thoughts, who are the 5 greatest receivers of the 2022 rookie class? It is Olave, 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 and Olave.
Well, everybody listening, I asked the question before the Super Bowl, are you going to pick the name brand or the off brand, right? And the name brand at the time, we did this in the offseason, was Patrick Mahomes. Off brand was Jalen Hurts. Kind of a little pat on our back on the off brand. But if you watch that video, you can see that Mike was really drunk and, he just had a bad night. Mike apparently is more drunk right now because he thinks Olave is in the conversation of wide receiver 1. With that, we are signing off. We appreciate everybody. We love y'all. We will see you back here, same time, same place next week. We are out of this thing. Peace.
Peace.